what I've been up to for the past 25 years has been my life's purpose, my mission, that I have felt I've been guided to do this work. So I love to share it with people and answer your questions as well. A little bit about my history, that I was in a terrible car accident. That was when I was a teacher, English teacher in Barrington, Illinois. And my friend was driving the car, and a truck backed out of a driveway. It was a flatbed, and it was just as it was backing out, our car went right into it. It was very dark. It was nighttime, 5 o'clock in Chicago anyway, and we crashed. And we ended up that the car was in the driveway where the truck had just left, just gotten out. And on either side of that driveway were 6-foot ditches. And our car could have gone upside down into either one of them, but we remained as if we had purposefully gone into that driveway. Um, Amazingly, the EMTs came probably within 3 to 5 minutes. And you might say, well, how did that happen? Well, we were across the street from Holy Family Hospital, and they heard the crash. And my side was so, because I was on the passenger side, the door was so scrunched that they couldn't open it, so they had to carry me out of the driver's side. And then they took us to the hospital and made sure that we were okay. My, well, the glass, you can imagine beach ball size, came like that. Um, Later that night, after my husband picked me up at the hospital, there were little chunks of glass that were inside, it was wintertime, inside my clothing. And I didn't have a scratch on me. I mean, can you imagine a crash for about 40 miles an hour into this truck? It was like unbelievable. So that began my belief that my life had been saved for a reason. I wasn't sure what that reason was, but how else could it have been orchestrated that way? So what happened was I went to another school the following year. I changed schools, and they had a night school program in hypnosis. And I thought, oh, I've always wanted to know about hypnosis. I really never had taken a course on it before, but I signed up. It was 3 classes that I went to. That's all it was. But I went, this is amazing. I'm going to have to tell the world about this. And I didn't realize in that moment that that was my life's mission. That's what I'm here to do, and tell the world. And that's what I've been trying to do my best for the last 25 years. So, how did that happen that I got more involved? One of my friends, a psychologist, said, I knew that you loved hypnosis, but did you know there's actually a certification for it? And she had a flyer, and she showed me, and I went, oh, yeah. And I asked her if I could take it home, which I did. And I called the next day and I signed up. I knew that this is what I was meant to do. And I was so fortunate because the man that owned the whole hypnotherapy institute was in New Jersey, where I was living at the time. Um, and I started right away, took the course, loved every minute. We had about 20 people in the class, and I learned so much about the subconscious mind. I never knew about it. And here I thought, I'm an English teacher. I've been teaching all kinds of things from swimming and horseback riding and so forth to actually in a school classroom. And how come I didn't know these things? Well, that's one reason that I'm talking today, because I want the world to know about it. And why do I want the whole world to know about it? Because it's going to make everybody happier, healthier, learned how to accept other people, learn how to disregard the negatives and to focus on the positives. And that's part of what I teach, just in an overall generalization. But what I also found out was that I'm a bit of an intuitive, and I have this wonderful ability I found to connect the dots. So when I'm working with somebody using hypnosis, um, from what they tell me or what they tell me from what they're hearing or seeing or remembering, it really helps to connect the dots and understand what is it what's goals that these people want, this my client wants, and how am I going to achieve that? And they give me most of the information that I need so that we can continue on. So I call my specialty, and it is a specialty, called reprogramming hypnosis. And I started very soon after I finished that class, but I then joined International Hypnosis Federation, and I went to more training. And what I was really meant to do was to write a book. And so I did, but I'm going to backtrack for a moment because I was talking about synchronicities. Um, After this was back in 1999, when I was certified, I saw a brochure. I don't know if you all have heard of Nightingale Conant. So anyway, I saw this brochure. I've been getting from Nightingale Conant brochures. They had a lot of CD programs, and it was really interesting. But this time they had the owner of Nightingale and a little bit of a bio about him. And I looked at the picture and I went, that's Vic Conant. I went to high school with him. And so I had the audacity to call him, just to call him at the office. And I didn't reach him at his office. He had actually forwarded the phone to his home. So when he answered the phone, I said, hi, Vic, it's Gale Glassner. And he said, who? He said, let me call you back. I said, okay. So it had been a number of years since I had last seen him, as you can imagine. And when he called me back, he said, oh, I looked you up in the yearbook. Now I know who you are. And then he said, well, what are you up to? What are you doing? And I said, well, actually, I've been certified and trained as a hypnotherapist. And he said, oh, are you working on anything in particular? And I said, well, actually, a CD called Relax, Release, and Dream On. And I haven't finished writing it, but that's what I'm going, what I'm focused on right now. And he said, well, why don't you send it to me? I'd love to look at it and hear it. And here, this company, it's over 50 years old, and they were really well known in the East Coast and Midwest. When I came to California, not so much. But anyway, it took me longer than I thought, several months, if not close to a year, before I had it finished. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, especially when I wanted to send it to somebody like him who sees all kinds of programs. And what happened was I get a phone call. Well, actually, what happened first is the person that I was working with in Montclair, New Jersey, as a hypnotherapist, he had a newspaper, Montclair Life and Leisure. And so I asked him, I said, I need to record this Relax, Release, Dream On. I don't know, exactly how to do it or what to do it. I guess I need a sound studio. And he said, well, why don't you use mine? I said, you have a sound studio? And he said, yeah, would you like to use it? And this kind gentleman let me use it. I mean, I was there for about 2 hours, did not charge me $1 for it. And he found a sound engineer because he knew I would need one. And the sound engineer, here's another synchronicity, he had just worked with another hypnotist just a few weeks before, and he said, I still have some of the music I created for, the other fellow. And I said, oh, and he said, would you like to, listen? Maybe there's something you'd like. So I listened, and I heard the music that I just fell in love with. And I use it with all the audios that I make for clients. It's a background music. And another miracle, synchronicity. He gave me such a very low price for it, so it was very affordable. And everybody that I've used it with love it. So another synchronicity. Then I get a phone call from Nightingale Conant when they heard that I had the CD ready to go, and I said, "I'll send it to you, sure." And they received it, and he wanted his team to hear it. And then they say, "We really like it. We'd like to meet you." Well, Vic said, "We're coming to uh, New Jersey, New York area next week. Can we meet you then?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "Well, we're actually staying at our friend's house in New Jersey." And it turned out their friend was 20 minutes away from my house, another synchronicity. And so that's where I went to meet with them. So I met with Mrs. Conant first, and she introduced me to their dear friend for 25 years. And she's a grief counselor. And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful. I know this wonderful grief counselor. She's got a group called, um, oh, hang on just a moment. Uh, it was all about good grief." And she said, "Mary Robinson?" "Yeah." "Oh, well, I'm going to be on a panel with Mary Robinson, just next month." And I said, as I looked to her, and I said, "And I'm going to be on the panel with you." Get the idea of synchronicity? How could that happen, right? So all these things kept happening. They liked the audio very much, the CD. In those days, it was all CDs. And so that's how my whole background professional and reaching out to people started. And it was in 2005 that they actually launched the whole title is Reprogram Your Subconscious, How to Use Hypnosis to Get What You Really Want. And in 6 months, it was a top seller. I'm going, how is this happening? I mean, okay, I'm an English teacher and I taught lots of things, but how could this happen? So I went back to that scene about the car accident and I go, that's why I'm saved. That's why I was meant to do this. And so I had a great run with them, and then about 7 years it was a top seller, and then somebody else from their company left, but he knew me, and he became an agent and went to another publisher and said, "I think you should take a look at her and her work." And they did, and I ended up with my second publisher, who I didn't go after, but came after me. Now, does this sound a little bit crazy, wonderful? Because it was. I mean, it's still hard to believe. So where did I go from there? I started seeing clients, and I started by not charging people. I just wanted to have the experience, and it really helped me learn so much. And from there, I started to learn more and more about the subconscious, which is why I wanted you all to meet the subconscious, because it's so little unknown. We've been hearing it more, let's say, in the last couple of years, but when I first started, no one was talking about it. So why did I want you to meet your subconscious? Because it's like Alexa, the technology that we have, that you can have this instrument in your home somewhere, your office, and you just talk to Alexa and they can tell you the age of somebody and they can tell you all kinds of things, right? Well, I want you to imagine that your subconscious is like that. It hears what you say. It hears what other people are talking about when you're there. It feels your feelings. So if you get angry, it knows, oh, you don't want to see that person again. And it puts it in its programming. So it's like a computer, our subconscious. And its programming is programmed without your knowledge. You didn't even know it put the name of that person in your programming. It didn't tell you that you understood that you had to take a trip someplace, but everything was collected in your programming. So how does that come that I say it's your advocate and your protector? Well, this is what I've come to understand, and that is when a person's in hypnosis, which means alpha state of frequencies, as soon as you close your eyes, you're in the alpha state of frequencies. And when you go deeper, it's theta, okay? And so you can go deeper into that relaxed state. And then if you're in delta, you're asleep. And you may wonder, how is it that I can listen to something when I'm sleeping and it goes into my subconscious? Because it's always there for you and it's taking in. And so a lot of times, in fact, I started very soon writing scripts for each client. And I'm going to pause here and kind of switch a little bit because some people do large groups. And I've so far done just one group of 7 people for stopping smoking. What I found is it's so individualized. Each of us has a whole background. You may go even into a past life, but everything is stored in your subconscious programming. And it doesn't say, oh, excuse me, I just put so and so in. No, it just does it automatically and it remains there. And a lot of people, in fact, most people have no idea it's there, but we find it during hypnosis and it's a way that they can let it go. And we literally communicate with your subconscious. Believe it or not, does that sound strange? We actually can hear a person when they're in hypnosis and they're in that state and they want to talk to their subconscious, they're able to do it. Your subconscious is your friend. It is your advocate. It wants to help you. It wants you to feel good. It wants you to be happy. Did you know you had somebody rooting for you? Something like your subconscious to be happy, to be successful, to do all the things you want to do? Well, you do. And so the other thing it does is it sometimes makes decisions that aren't the best for you. So for instance, if you started smoking as a 16-year-old, let's say, and you were the bunch of other kids and it felt like, oh, I'm really hot doing this, your subconscious would feel those emotions. Oh, that gives them lots of excitement. That gives them lots of pleasure. Well, let's give them even more of that. So if somebody tried to stop smoking, it's not going to work unless they get rid of that program that says it's pleasure for me, I really want it. And so that's why I think it has to be so individualized as opposed to being a group. And so your subconscious also doesn't think into the future. Like, if I give them all this pleasure and they enjoy smoking so much, what about if they get cancer, which is so dominant from cigarette smoking? It doesn't recognize that. That's not its responsibility. That's not its path. But it can happen that way. So a lot of things, we can go to sweets and so forth, and somebody's gained a lot of weight and they just can't resist the sugar. Their subconscious is encouraging them without you knowing it to feel good by eating that candy bar or having that soda or whatever it is. So I'm going to stop for a moment